Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Going solo here today, and as you can see, in a different spot here. Going to try to make this my podcasting recording setup here with all the NBA stuff. Another crazy day of playoff action that occurred last night. We had our first team advance to the conference finals with the Indiana Pacers knocking off the 64-win Cleveland Cavaliers. We had the Oklahoma City Thunder winning a pivotal Game 5 against the Denver Nuggets to get a 3-2 series lead in that series. Whole lot of things to talk about from both of these games. Before we get into it, make sure you drop a like on the video, subscribe for more NBA postseason content. We're going on every weekday here with the recaps, and then also the full-on podcasts coming out every Tuesday and Friday. And as always, you can check in the description down below to skip ahead to whichever game or storyline that you want to hear me talk about. Let's get into these games, man. I guess we'll go in the order in which they occurred. So we'll start off with Game 5 between the Pacers and the Cavaliers, and Indiana did it. They're heading to their second straight Eastern Conference Finals. They knocked off the number one seeded Cavs 114-105 in Game 5 in Cleveland to take home the 4-1 series victory. Wow, man. Wow. As a Cavs fan, I'm rocking the shirt, win for the land. Weren't able to get it done this season, obviously, and it's crazy that this incredible, magical dream season that we had for the last 6-7 months is now over in the second round in Game 5 in the same spot that their season finished last year. But this team did a lot throughout the season of obviously to make, that should make fans feel better about them going forward. But before we get into the Cavs offseason preview, because I'll quickly go over their offseason, got to talk about the game, man. Got to talk about this game. Indiana, man, you knew that it was just like Game 2. The Indiana Pacers knew coming in here that with the Cavaliers, with their season on the line here at home, coming off of the embarrassing Game 4 loss on the road, that they were going to come out with a punch. And they did that. Didn't start out the best, the Cavaliers, in a very quick preview of what would happen the rest of the game. Couldn't hit a shot. They were flat on all of their open jump shot attempts. Luckily, so were the Pacers. The Pacers couldn't really get anything going offensively, and that, to me, was a lot of credit to the Cavalier defense. The Cavs defense really picked up a lot to start the game, and Cleveland at the other end was turning those missed opportunities into easy buckets inside. They got a ton of paint points from Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in the half court, and Donovan Mitchell on fast break opportunities. Once the Pacers were able to weather that storm after trailing by 19 points in the second quarter, the Pacers just controlled for, the next couple of quarters there on both ends of the floor. Pacers got started offensively in the second quarter when Tyrese Halliburton went absolutely nuclear from three-point range. I mean, he went 5 for 5 from three, I believe, in the second quarter after picking up 2 quick fouls in the first quarter. And man, all 5 of the threes were straight cash, nothing but net. It was ridiculous. High arcing rainbow shots from way outside, and Halliburton just drained it. He had more threes in Game 5 than he did the entire rest of the series. Hughes, who led the Pacers scoring surge there in the second quarter. But then throughout the third quarter, when the Pacers really took over this game and turned a deficit into a double-digit lead, it was everyone, man. It was Pascal Siakam who finished with 21 points, Andrew Nembhard. Thomas Bryant was huge in the third quarter. He was scoring in fast break opportunities. Nesmith was still huge, even though he didn't shoot the ball that great. He had big-time finishes inside. And Indiana, the third quarter was really the difference in the game, in my opinion. I mean, the second quarter was obviously huge. The run where the Pacers, go on like a 19-4 run against Cleveland to get themselves back in the game. It was coming out of the locker room in the third quarter after Cleveland had scored the first 2 buckets to start the third quarter. They went ice cold again. They went 7 minutes without making a basket. 7 minutes without making a basket. And, I think it's human nature when you're in a situation like the Cavaliers are in, where so many players, you could tell, are just banged up with injuries. Darius Garland just didn't have the explosion, to get to the basket and finish the way that he normally does with his floaters. He wasn't able to get any floaters off. Donovan Mitchell left it all out on the court. Evan Mobley with his ankle, DeAndre Hunter with his wrist. I mean, across the board, this team was fighting till the end, man. But in that third quarter, they went ice cold. And when you go 6-7 minutes without making a basket, obviously, it's going to deflate you on the defensive end as well because you're not scoring at all. It's going to deflate you on the defensive end when you're already as banged up as the Cavs are. So the Pacers go on their run. They're up double digits basically heading into the fourth quarter. And credit to this Cavs team, man. Despite them being banged up, being injured, and really just not playing well at all, they were still in striking distance, and they went on a bunch of runs in the fourth quarter to try and come back in this. To start the fourth quarter, they had a crazy run to cut the lead to 1. Donovan Mitchell finally started to get some threes going late in the fourth quarter to keep themselves in striking distance. But every single time the Cavs went on a run, the Pacers had an answer. Pacers had an answer every single time, and that's really how it has been throughout the entire series. In game 1, the Pacers got off to a great start. Every time Cleveland made a push, Indiana had to respond. Game 2, it took a while for the Pacers to finally make a run. They did it in the fourth quarter, and they had one of the most miraculous comebacks that you'll ever see. And then in this game, they have the response. Came in the first half when the Cavs had that 19-point lead. Came in the fourth quarter when Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome were making shots trying to get themselves back in it. And Indiana deserves this. They deserve it, absolutely. I mean, they played absolutely incredible. I've been trying to give them as much credit as I can throughout this series because they've just impressed me so much. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I think I fell into the category with most other people. After the Pacers go on that miraculous run last year to the Eastern Conference Finals, playing a couple injured teams along the way, I think rightfully so, fans are thinking, all right, is this a fluke? This run was a fluke. Eastern Conference is getting better up at the top. Pacers really didn't do a whole lot of moves to get better. Heading into next season, probably not looking that good. And I'm pretty sure I'll have to go back and take a look. I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the season where we had our, burning questions or 30 burning questions heading into the season. And one of the questions was the most overrated team. Pretty sure I said the Indiana Pacers, and I looked right for the first, quarter of the season when they were 10-15 through their first 25 games. But since then, this team has been one of the best teams in the NBA, and they went under the radar because of the fact that they started off slow. And the way they finished the season and have carried that into the playoffs with an 8-2 record, disposing of the Bucks and the Cavs in 5 games each, they've earned my respect. Absolutely. I mean, how could they not with the way that they played? I mean, they shot 50% from the field and 43% from 3 in this game. I know coming into this game, I saw a stat that through the first 9 postseason games, they had shot 50% from the field, 40% from 3 in their first 9 playoff games. First time that's happened since the 2014 San Antonio Spurs. Historic offensive shooting from this Pacers team. And this whole time during this series, we're thinking, man, Pacers can't shoot this well for this long. This is who they are. They have a ton of shot makers. They play basketball they play in such a fun style, pushing the pace, getting everyone involved, everyone having some decent impact on the game, even if they're not able to score as much. They have defenders, they have rebounders, they have the stamina to be able to play at that pace and also play a full court press defense the entire game. And they were able to get to the conference finals with that style too last year. I think that, even I can look at myself in the mirror and say, last year when they made their run to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think that the fact that they had played an injured Bucks team, an injured Knicks team, and gotten through those, with both those teams getting injured, kind of overlooked how good this Pacers team could be because they beat the Knicks the same way. They, burned those guys down, and the Knicks guys got injured. I mean, Jalen Brunson got hurt in Game 7, OG Anunoby in Game 2. They already Mitchell Robinson was injured throughout the playoffs. Randall and Bojan Bogdanovic weren't there either. So they did this last year as well. And despite them getting swept by Boston last year, pretty easy to forget they were in great position to win 3 of the 4 games, and they were causing headaches for the Boston Celtics despite not having Tyrese Halliburton for games 3 and 4. This team has been very impressive at the end of last year and throughout this year, and they deserve a ton of credit. Obviously it hurts as a Cavs fan that we, didn't make it past the second round and lost in 5 games, but I think that I can live with it, and I'm not as frustrated or upset as I would have been if it wasn't to if it wasn't, a loss to a team like this that was playing just great basketball. They were playing great basketball. They deserve to win. I mean, when you deserve to win, I always want to see teams advance to the playoffs that are playing their best basketball at the right time and that deserve to win. And in this case, the Indiana Pacers deserve to be in the Eastern Conference Finals with a very legitimate chance with the way they've been playing to go to the NBA Finals, which is unbelievable. Obviously, we still have a decent way to go here in the Eastern Conference Finals, but this Indiana team just was so impressive throughout these first 10 playoff games, and I'm very excited to see what they can do in the Eastern Conference Finals because I mean they're pretty easy to root for as well. I mean, I know that Cavs fans may not like me, saying these things, but they're not a dirty team. They were a homegrown team besides, the Pascal Siakam trade, but that's the one piece that they need. Every team needs that one piece to put you over the hump. They did that last year. Homegrown, good coaching, not a crazy market, a team that has been very good for the last like 30 years, but never great. Never really great. I mean, the only finals appearance that they've had recently, or maybe ever, was in 2000 with Reggie Miller and that team. And then they had the back-to-back conference finals appearances in 2013 and 2014 with the Paul George, Roy Hibbert, David West, George Hill, Lance Stevenson, Frank Vogel teams. If this team is going to play like this, amazing offensive style with great defense, this team is going to be considered great, and again a chance to go to the NBA Finals. So credit to the Pacers, man. Very excited to see what they do in the conference finals against most likely the Knicks, or if the Celtics can make a miraculous comeback. On the Cavs sort of things, obviously disappointed with the result. There's no other way around it. I mean, they just could not hit a shot. Max Strus, who's been great throughout the playoffs, goes 0 for 9, 0 for 6 from 3. Darius Garland, 4 for 16 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3. Donovan Mitchell struggles again shooting until the fourth quarter. He finished 8 of 25 from the floor, 4 for 13 from 3. As a team, I mean, none of those numbers sound good. And as a team, they shot 39% from the field, 26% from 3, 70% from the free throw line. Obviously very disappointing, but again, the fight that this team had in this game, I said coming into this game, they were not going to go down without a fight, and they showed that in the fourth quarter. I mean, he came to the realization throughout the game, even when it started, with the way that Garland looked offensively, just not looking like his normal self, not getting to his spots like he normally is able to, not able to get off his, great floater. Donovan Mitchell having plays where, he gets a steal, just nonchalantly goes in, tries to get a layup so he doesn't have to use a bunch of energy for a dunk, gets blocked by Miles Turner. Just stuff like that from those two, and DeAndre Hunter and Evan Mobley in previous games. This team was just not physically able to make it through this series. And even if they had won this game with a crazy comeback down the stretch, they probably would not have made it. They would not have won a game 6 in Indiana. I don't believe that they would have, with just the physical state of this team. I mean, I had a ton of confidence going into this game that they would be able to get it done, but actually seeing, the availability and how exactly what these guys were going through and how they were leaving it out on the floor, they just weren't physically able to get this done. And, I think a lot is going to be said about this team throughout the offseason. That's going to be the most annoying thing ever because there's going to be so much said about this team. And there's going to be some truth to it all because this team for the third straight year makes it to the playoffs, doesn't get past the second round. But I think that context is very, very important. You have a lot of guys that just weren't physically at their best. I think the Pacers defense did have a lot to do with it, but you also have, four key players, just not playing well because of injury, very clearly banged up. But injuries were not the reason that the Cavaliers lost this series. They should have won game 2. They didn't close it out. Game 1, they should have came out better. In this game, they should have responded to the Pacers, comeback attempt in the second quarter better. And they should have come out of the locker room better to start the second half. The Indiana Pacers were a better team in this series than the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's something that is a disappointment for this Cleveland team that had incredibly high aspirations coming in. But yeah, incredible that the season's already over at this point for the Cavaliers and that the Pacers are headed back to the conference finals. Looking at the Cavs offseason real quick, there's going to be so many people. Again, there's going to be so many things said about this team. And honestly, I think of a lot of what is going to be said, while there may be some truth to it, I think that there are going to be some extremely lazy narratives made with this team as a whole and with the individuals on this team. There are going to be narratives that this core 4 of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen will not work. I think that's just reverting back to previous years when this year was very different. This team was the best team in the East and was the second best team in franchise history for a reason. They very clearly can get it done, and they are going to come back with the core 4 next season. I don't think there's any doubt that will be the case unless the Cavs somehow get a Giannis or Kevin Durant type player, which is not going to happen. Individually, I think it's very easy to forget how young this team still is. I mean, when you take a look at the, ages of this team, I made sure to take a screenshot of the ages here. Right. Donovan Mitchell, 28 years old. Jarrett Allen, 27. Darius Garland, 25. Evan Mobley, 23. Typically in the NBA, in my mind, the prime years of a player are typically that 27 to 32 type of range. And we're seeing that kind of change a little bit with some of the older players playing super well. But that just, I think over the last few seasons, we've been able to get the data that those 27 through 32 type of years are your best years. Donovan Mitchell is just entering the best years of his career. Jarrett Allen at 27, I don't know how much better he'll get, but he's an extremely consistent, steady piece for this Cavalier team. You have Darius Garland, who had an incredible bounce back year during the regular season, made another All-Star game. And the youngest player, 23-year-old Evan Mobley, just had his breakout season, winning Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to make an All-NBA team, potentially All-NBA second team, with a ton of room to get better. So this team, there's nothing wrong with bringing this core 4 back here and maybe addressing some things with the end of the rotation. I think that is something that does need to be looked at. Maybe those 8th, 9th, 10th man guys should be addressed, and maybe there can be some upgrades in that department. But I'm very excited. I'm extremely excited for Cavaliers basketball next year. Painful that it's going to be another 5 months until it can come back as a Cavs fan. But just proud of what they were able to fight through in this game. But again, they didn't deserve to win it. All credit goes to the Indiana Pacers. But I echo what Donovan Mitchell said in his post-game interview. They'll be back. Especially with how wide open the Eastern Conference is going to be next season. There's going to be a nice window for this team to compete for a long time. And that's kind of the idea when you get a team together that's still so young. There's a long window to compete here. And I'm very excited for that. I think all off season, we're going to hear about, Donovan Mitchell. I was seeing some things throughout this play, and this will be the last thing on the Cavs. I've spent a lot of time on this game and this series, obviously. But again, we've mentioned this on podcasts before. I'm a Cavs fan. If I talk longer about the Cavaliers, especially with the type of season and the way that it's ended longer, that's just going to be how it is. I'm going to try to talk about each team with the same due diligence as I talk about the Cavs, but obviously I'm a Cavs fan, so I'll probably talk about them a little bit more. But the last thing I'll say is that Donovan Mitchell, I was seeing things like, now he's finished his eighth playoff appearance, hasn't made it past the second round in his career with Utah or Cleveland, hasn't made it to a conference final. Should that be considered a detriment towards him? He's just not a winner? And I think that's absolutely ridiculous with how he is played in his playoff career. He's continuously proven that he's one of the greatest playoff performers and scorers and playoff risers of the last several years. He's one of the best playoff scorers in the history of the sport. In this Pacers series, he was incredible. I mean, he averaged 41 points per game through the first 3 games of the series. Even with his jump shot not falling, he still averaged 41 points per game through 3 games. Throughout his playoff career, second straight year, he averages a hair under 30. He's only had, in my opinion, 2 years where he's had stinkers in the playoffs. That was his second year with Utah, where they got beaten pretty handily by Houston when he was still trying to figure things out. And then probably his final year in Utah, where he just wasn't good defensively and also wasn't shooting, when they lost to Dallas in that 6-game series. Outside of those things, this guy has been one of the best playoff performers in the NBA. And to me, I think that the, whole talk about, man, he's, great playoff numbers or whatever, he's been in the league, he's a veteran, 8 years, all-star player, hasn't made it to a conference final. I think that this is probably the most comparable, start to a playoff career as a guy like Chris Paul. I'm going to compare Donovan Mitchell to Chris Paul in this sort of sense, where these two guys throughout their career, and obviously Chris Paul eventually ended up making a few conference finals in his career, but that was the big stigma for a while, was that, Chris Paul, great player, but is he really that great because he hasn't made a conference final? And I think that it's very similar to Donovan Mitchell, where the context of the teams are very important. For Donovan Mitchell, this is the first season, maybe besides the 2021 year where the Jazz were the number 1 seed, where there were legitimate championship expectations on his team. And even the 2021 Jazz year, I did not think they were going to go to the finals or anything crazy like that. Chris Paul, very similar with his New Orleans Hornets teams in his first few years with the Clippers. By the time when he would lose in those series, it was either because, okay, his team's just not a championship contending team, or if he did lose, it's because of injuries for the most part. And we all know the Clipper curse with that Lob City team, with the Blake Griffin and injuries that Chris Paul would suffer himself. But what is this? Let me count here. So Chris Paul didn't make a conference final until his first year in Houston, so the 2017-18 season. He made 9 playoffs before the one he made to the conference finals. In those 9 years, 76 games, Chris Paul averaged 21 points and 9 assists per game, 5 rebounds, 48% from the field, 38% from 3, with also having incredibly huge individual games in certain moments. So Donovan Mitchell is like the prime player. Donovan Mitchell, it's the exact same thing. He's had incredible games. Until this year, he hasn't had the team to do it. And when he did, a lot of guys were banged up and they ran into a buzzsaw, the Indiana Pacers. So I think that, those are two guys that I think should be compared to each other with the whole not making a conference final thing yet. But I think, that was a whole rant on that sort of thing, because I just think that the narrative of, hey, the core 4 doesn't work, or, oh, Donovan Mitchell, he's not a winner, he hasn't been to a conference final. I think those are some of the laziest narratives that you can come up with. And you're not actually watching the context of the games or the teams or the individual player or anything like that. But again, only way to prove it is to do it. And this team didn't prove it this year. So it's back to the drawing board for next season. Finally, moving on here to the second game of the night. We had ourselves a classic in a pivotal game 5 between the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And for the second straight game, it is the Thunder that made the plays down the stretch as they take the 112-105 victory in game 5 to take the 3-2 lead in this Western Conference semifinal series. What an incredible game this was, man. To start off, the OKC Paycom Center home court advantage propelled them to get off to a very hot start. As soon as they finally settled into the game, the Denver Nuggets got back, and it was close and back and forth. Throughout the remainder of the next couple of quarters. Actually, Denver had the lead for most of the second and third quarter. They played very, very well despite, some individual players not shooting well. They were getting it done with their defense. They were forcing some turnovers from OKC. They were forcing difficult shots, for the most part. And Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray were making huge plays in this game. Aaron Gordon as well. But once again, heading into the fourth quarter where Denver has a 3-possession lead to start the fourth quarter, and there are opportunities to extend the lead to double digits and put this Thunder team out of reach. Second straight game, they can't do it. Their offense disappears in the fourth quarter, and they cannot shoot the ball in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, Denver shot 5 for 21 from the field and 1 for 12 from 3. And the only make was a ridiculous Nikola Jokic bailout fadeaway 3 at the end of the shot clock. Crazy shot, by the way. But that's the only 3 they hit in 12 attempts. And again, 5 for 21 from the field the rest of the quarter. And also the Oklahoma City Thunder just turned it on. I mean, that's a big reason why Denver struggled was because of the Thunder defense. They were not allowing the Nuggets to get comfortable on the offensive end. Meanwhile, the Thunder were just making the plays. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played like the MVP of the league in this fourth quarter. And so did Jokic. Jokic was unbelievable. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander made some key plays. I mean, he knocked down some huge shots, especially at the end when he had the and one fadeaway jumper from right near the foul line, and then the pull-up 3 that extended the lead to a 6-point game in OKC's favor in the final minute. But, all their guys were playing together on a string, and it was great to see. I mean, when the Denver Nuggets were playing a lot of different coverages on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because he was having a phenomenal game. And what the rest of the Thunder were able to do was they were able to just make the right plays. And that was the difference in this game. When Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got 2 guys on him, he got off the ball. He threw it to Lou Dort to knock down a spot-up 3. He hit 4 of 8 threes in this game, 2 huge ones to start the Thunder comeback in the fourth quarter. J-Dub, they had a similar, play in the final minute after Jokic had made the 3 to tie the game. It happened again. Shai was getting double teamed on the pick and roll, throw it to Lou Dort into the corner, and J-Dub has a wide open 3 that he nails to give the Thunder the lead that they would never relinquish. And then prior to that, you had the bigs working together. You had Chet Holmgren feeding Hartenstein. You had Hartenstein feeding Holmgren. You had Jalen Williams, J-Will feeding Chet Holmgren inside on those high-low passes, big-to-big actions there, and also key offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities as well. So OKC once again making the plays down the stretch in the clutch for the second straight game. And it was their whole team, man, that was doing it. It was that top 6 for OKC is what got the job done, because this was what was going to be worrisome for the Denver Nuggets in this series, was instances like this where Nikola Jokic finally has a very good shooting game. He goes for 44 points, 15 rebounds, 17 for 25 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3. Finally has a game where he shoots over even 40%, let alone 68% in this game. Jamal Murray has 28 points on 27 shots, 10 for 27 from the field. Did a good job on him. Michael Porter, another brutal game. I know he's having the shoulder problems, but he is not playing well at all in this series. Besides game 3 or whatever it was, Porter has been a non-factor in this series. And this was the worry. This was the worry that if the OKC role players were the better if the OKC's supporting cast was better than Denver's, Thunder are going to win this series. That's what it was going to look like, in the preview sort of thing. And if Jokic's stat line was going to look like 44, 15, and 5, kind of like that, where Jokic has a high scoring game, but only has 5 assists compared to his, double digit assist games. I want to take a look at Jokic's previous games in this series, where his assist numbers have already kind of been low in this series because the Thunder have been doing a terrific job on the defensive end of trying to stop the Joker. But in this series, when he's able to get, the 6 assists like he had in game 3 in overtime, he's able to get his guys, involved more. I know it's only, the assists are something that it's always difficult to look at, and the Thunder are doing a great job defensively, but OKC forcing Jokic to be more of a scorer than a passer is kind of the recipe to success. Because like Nick and I were saying in the preview video, if you're limiting Jokic to less assists and a ton of points, it's going to put OKC in a good position to win because those other guys aren't getting involved. And when you take a look at the leading scores in the game, you have Jokic with 44, then it's Shea with 31. Okay, those two are going to be the top 2 guys more often than not. Then Jamal Murray has 28. Okay, all right. Then after that, Jalen Williams 18, Hartenstein 15, Chet Holmgren 14, Caruso 13. Next 4 go in favor of OKC. And Aaron Gordon had 13 points to tie with Caruso. And then after that, it's, Lou Dort with his 12. So let's see here, you have 6 of the top 8 scores basically on OKC, they're going to win despite Jokic having this 44-point game. And that's what the difference was in this game and could be the difference now as we look ahead to game 6, going back to Denver with their season on the line. I think they've got to be thinking, man, all right, through 5 games, we've played in 4 really close games, and it's been a split. Games 4 and 5 went Denver's way. Games 1 and 3, games 4 and 5 went OKC's way, and games 1 and 3 went Denver's way. And obviously, game 2, we had the Thunder blowout here. What Denver has to make sure doesn't happen is that the Thunder get a 3rd straight game where they win the 4th quarter by this much, because that was the big difference. That was the big difference. I'll take a look at both of these 4th quarters here. In the 4th quarter here of game 5, they got outscored 34-19. In the 4th quarter of game number 4 in Denver, they got outscored 29-18. So they've gotten outscored by 26 points in the last 2 4th quarters. It's not going to get it done in the quarter that matters the most in these close games against these 2, high-powered teams led by the 2 best players in the NBA this year. Can't lose the 4th quarter. Can't lose the 4th quarter and lose it basically to the Thunder supporting cast. With Shea and Jokic having great 4th quarters, it comes down to the supporting cast. And the Thunder supporting cast has been fantastic over the last 2 games. Not so much for Denver. We go back to Denver for game 6, and we'll see how the Nuggets can respond here. I think that the biggest key there for Denver going into the 4th quarter is, of course, trying to find a way to win the non-Jokic minutes in the 4th quarter. And maybe we'll get a situation where maybe Jokic gets his normal rest in the first half of game 6. Denver's at home. They should get off to a good start, with that crowd, especially them facing elimination. They should get off to a good start, and they should be able to withstand, runs at least to start the game. It should be a close game at halftime. That's what I would expect in game 6. 3rd quarter probably will be pretty even as well. I think the Nuggets may have an edge a little bit with Jokic in the lineup. We'll see if head coach David Adelman will make the decision to play Jokic the entire second half, because with their season on the line and the fact that they have struggled to start 4th quarters, and in both situations, that's when Jokic is out of the game. We'll see if that has, any sort of a correlation here. Moving forward, Jokic in this game also didn't play or didn't rest at all in the second half. They may have to do that again. Which is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible series here. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys think that OKC can close this out in 6 games on the road, or if Denver can force into a game 7. Let's take a look at tonight's actions. We've got 2 more game 5s here in these playoffs, and a couple more chances for some teams to advance to the conference finals. First up at 7 o'clock on TNT. The New York Knicks, after taking a 3-1 lead against Boston, will have a chance to knock them out on the road. Again, 7 o'clock on TNT. Again, and we have the unfortunate news with the Jason Tatum Achilles injury getting confirmed earlier yesterday, and he is going to be out for most likely all of next season. So we'll see if the Celtics will have any fight in them, if they have any chance of forcing this series back to New York for a game 6. Knicks a chance to get to their first conference final in 25 years, where they would play the Pacers. And then the nightcap at 9:30 on TNT. It's game 5 between the Golden State Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves with a 3-1 lead, looking to close out the Warriors and advance to their second straight conference final. Golden State not going to have Steph Curry once again, so it'll be a tough battle for them in Minnesota. But that's all for me. I know it was a super long recap, but with my Cavs getting eliminated last night, had to talk about them for a little bit, especially with the season that they had and the disappointing finish. But I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.